I have always been attracted to communities of faith, vibrant communities. I am a church geek. Just FYI, you can use that term if that fits for you as well. They are places that have challenged me to leadership. They have opened my heart to others and offered solace when the world seemed, unbearable. Vibrant communities of faith are what I think all people actually want. Like a place where you can see purpose, where you know that there is heart and gratitude and joy and balance, and that there is a sense of connection that some people might call spirituality. I have always been attracted to these places, but they've not always been UU communities. I am a seeker, and I love wrestling with big ideas. Anybody else here? You don't have to raise your hand. It's okay. I have looked long and hard for geodes, right? In all their different forms in the world. And I believe that geodes are out there. This is a bit of the story of my seeking and why I actually believe that our liberal religious faith has answers in this world that many of us desperately need right now, in this room and beyond. I grew up in a Unitarian Universalist home. I'm actually a fourth generation UU. Don't hold that against me. When I was in my 20s and I came out as a lesbian, my mom and dad looked at me and said, "Oh, that's really nice, dear. Do you want chicken or beef for dinner?" I'm like, come on, I want to fight. However, when I came and told them that I was giving up an internship at a UU church in favor of studying with the Episcopalians, they felt it necessary to write me a letter telling me that they still loved me, swear to God, in all that form, telling me that and I would still be welcomed in their home. Very generous of them. After that letter, the first time that we met and I visited my parents, we always had dinner and then a glass of wine and conversation afterwards. And my father sat down and asked, "Okay, so, Christian, huh? How do you reconcile all of the original sin and colonialization, the destructive power of homophobia, Karen, of xenophobia, of patriarchy, Karen, of slavery, all of it?" Okay. We talked for hours that night, and for many, many more times over the next 3 years. We spoke about fundamentalism and how our faith and beliefs make us and form us, how our choices in the world are fundamental and important to who we are, where we find ourselves, and how we know ourselves to be human in this world. They are the foundations, and I found myself grappling with them. I'd been brought to this place by something really big. My partner had died. I was standing at the edge of her bed when someone said, "It's time now, Karen." And I breathed and I looked, and my partner, who had been holding her head like this for days, had her head erect, and she was looking at something so strongly that I followed her eyes to see what was there. I kneeled, I held her hand, and she breathed her last, and just then, only then, her eyes relaxed, and her spirit was gone. I don't know what she saw. I don't know if it was neurons flashing or some other thing with the brain shutting. I don't know. But I believe that she was looking at something. And maybe that's all that matters. In grief, I began wrestling to try to find words to hold on to that moment. It was so profound. If you have ever been at the bedside of someone who has breathed their last, you know what I am saying. I struggled to find a place to rest And sadly, the language of humanism that I found in my UU church didn't hold the breadth that I needed at that moment. So in searching, I found a place of ritual. I am a witch. I love ritual. And spiritual practice in the Episcopal Church. And I did say witch with a W, not a B. Just FYI, just in case. And I found a place that was solidly able to hold my exploration of what that thing was, right? I was looking for the geode in a really, really time that looked mostly like this. Over time, partly because of the conversations with my parents, partly because of the conversations with most of the people in my life, I came to find out and realize and embrace that there was a specific dogma that many of my Episcopalian friends had that went along with my beloved ritual, with that beloved mystery that held something in language and ritual that was beyond that. But in leaving the Unitarian Universalist faith, I found out something about myself. My faith begins with seeking. My faith begins with looking at this, looking at the world, looking at myself, looking at people who, I don't know, sometimes I don't like everybody, looking at other people sometimes and saying, there must be something more. There must be something more. And in those conversations and in that wrestling, I found the geodes that were my own truth, that I could hold on to and come back into this community of faith with an understanding that Unitarian Universalism is a place that accepts all the truths. You got a geode? Awesome! Let's break it open and see what it holds. What makes a Unitarian Universalist besides pledging, membership, right? All of those are very important. I believe it is an agreement to wrestle with our beliefs and those ideas that we hold, whether new or old, to say, does this still fit? Is this still me? Am I still thinking this, or is there something that is broken open, that is something else created by all of that angst? It is engaging the world through curiosity, looking for a roadmap rather than an answer, right? From the Buddhist tradition, it is the many hands that point towards the moon, right? The truths that call us to act in love. I really thought that that was the way all people understood their beliefs, and I was wrong. I finally recognized that my faith is in the journey. While some of my Episcopal friends believe that the religion contains an ultimate truth, right? There's an ultimate truth on Palm Sunday that God has come into Israel and will leave in a different way, rather than that ultimate searching. This is the heritage of being a member of a liberal religious community. Dan Hotchkiss, right? Religion at its best is not a friend of the status quo. Religion at its best is not a friend of the status quo. Religion transforms people. No one touches holy ground and stays the same. And here's the funny thing, that status quo, maybe it's outside, maybe it's in this room. Oh, holy cow. Liberal religion reminds us to respond to this particular moment in our world today through the lens of those beliefs, because living through the lens of those beliefs will allow us to understand not only what our faith is, but what our faith calls us into in this moment. But to examine your faith is to be in a place where you are able to exchange those ideas with one another and look and say, I've had this thing over here that I really hate this or I really love this, and maybe I need to wrestle with it a little bit to see if it's going to break open to something else. Part of being part of a liberal religious community is to wrestle with the free exchange of ideas and belief, the freedom to critique, to say, no. Have you thought about this? Having people around keeps us honest, like my father. Widening our perspectives helps us to see things that we may miss otherwise. I was just talking to a friend this morning, and I said, I have a harmony in my heart of all of these strings that have been knitted together into a song that I live by. It's super hard for me to take one of those strings out because I love them all so much. They have given me harmony. They have given me balance. They have given me a place of beauty and joy. But taking strings out allows me to be able to find those geodes. Diversity of experience, then, is what gives us the capability of being able to wrestle. DEI, really? Oh, of all the things that are under attack right now, when I look at the great teachers and sages of most, if not all, religious traditions, what I find are people who are celebrating difference as a way to be able to find these geodes, right? Siddhartha becomes Buddha, not by staying in his castle, being told only the things that he likes, only the things that are beautiful and positive. He becomes the Buddha by leaving that place and seeing the hardship of the world and living the hardship of the world, and then finding true enlightenment. Right? The goddess Inanna of the Sumerian tradition, the goddess Kali of Hinduism, both are these beautiful expressions where both love and life and creation fold together in with destruction. It is not just love and light and creation, it is destruction and the creation that can only come when things break open. Jesus, oh my gosh, Jesus, he travels across the Sea of Galilee away from what would be Israel now, right? He travels and he talks to, the Syrophoenicians and the Samaritans and the Romans, even healing people from all these places. For God's sakes, he is traveling to find what is different from his own space so that he knows the people of all that he might encounter. It's through those differences and the wrestling and the engagement that these people become something more. Liberal community is fundamentally different than most places, including our civic organizations. Beautiful as going and seeing, oh my gosh, Kathy Kelly is going to speak down here. Please go and see this woman who has given her life for the poor and those who are disadvantaged around our world. But civic organizations rarely, when given all of the knowledge that you might get from them in a book club or in a fabulous talk or wherever it is that you're going, rarely will they ask you, so what? So, you know all this stuff now. How is that going to ask you to act differently in this world? How does it take your feet from where they are standing into a different space? On Sunday, we ask, so what? I remember seeing a Marvel movie called Infinity War. Anyone here a Marvel fan? You can raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you. A few of you, yay. So Marvel Comics series is broad and long, right? There are all of these people, Captain America and Groot and all these different folks. In the Infinity Wars, for those of you that may not have seen it or are not willing to admit that you saw it, this guy named Thanos gathers up 6 infinity stones through death and destruction. I mean, he gets them, but he gets them by really nefarious means, right? He gathers them all up, and once he has them all, he eliminates half of all living beings in the universe. On the screen, if you're a Marvel fan, you're watching as these beloved characters, the Black Panther, just dissolve into dust. Oh, no, you don't know who's gonna go, no, come on. In talking with a member of my church afterwards, we got into this really deep discussion. Thanos, was he the villain? Was he the hero? Because you see, we find out in the movie that Thanos is destroying half of creation because he comes from a world that has been destroyed by overpopulation. He's acting out of something that he thinks is needed. He's trying to do something that may appear evil to somebody else, but he finds is the only way that he can act as a savior to the universe that he is a part of. Oh my gosh. It's complicated, these geodes that we find in faith. We talked literally for hours and came to the conclusion, not that there really is a conclusion in this kind of discussion. What mattered the most wasn't the decision that he made, but that he appeared to make it by himself. That he, as a unilateral, single individual with no input from anybody else or anything else, decided what he knew was right and then impacted everybody else in the universe. I mean, literally everything else in the universe. I don't know what my choice would have been, as horrible as that sounds. But I do know this, that I would not make a choice, that I choose not to make a choice, that I trust more choices that are made in a democratic place where people have the ability to speak and engage and argue and say yes and say no and say, I don't trust you, or I'm not sure. The engagement that we have with a liberal voice to be able to say, this is what I believe, and this is what that belief calls me into, and to have somebody else holding you to account to say, so what? This is invaluable. Unitarian Universalism is the gift of a faith that asks how first, rather than who. How does your belief call you in the world? How does your belief help you to understand what justice is? How does it inform your relationships, right? This is not the way most people approach faith. Most people look for definable answers. I want something solid that just stays there all the time, right? Oh, but here we ask how your beliefs ask you to act now. At times, I've heard you use act as if the beliefs themselves are the enemies. They are not. I don't know what you all believe. I imagine it would take hours of discussions with each and every single one of you to actually discover that. Beliefs are not harmful. What is harmful are beliefs that are unchangeable, unexamined, and fundamentalist in their nature. Fundamentalism is a mode of believing. It is not a set of beliefs. Fundamentalism does not allow for doubt or change. Fundamentalist belief come in all stripes and patterns. It is the lack of moral reflection and evolution of beliefs which makes them harmful. And the funny thing is that UUs are not immune to this. I'd like us to be immune to something, but we have to continue to garner the courage to speak about what our beliefs are in community, what it is that draws us forward into the world and draws us into those places that make us uncomfortable or the places where we know love and beauty. Every day, I try to live well, every single day. And sometimes I succeed and often I fail. Sometimes I do something and I don't know which side of the road it falls on, right? And that's why I come to community, to be able to be with you all, to be able to say, this is what happened. Is that okay? This is the gift that my parents and others gave me when my partner died, in challenging my choices. Through conversation and engagement, I came to know what I believe and how I think that belief calls me into the world. I believe in that which exists in all things, that which connects all things and holds all things together. I call that God. And I call that God because it makes conversations with other people actually start to happen. Oddly enough, when I get into conversations with other people who might wear collars, oftentimes they say that how I'm describing God is how they understand God. They may put a different label on it, but it's really similar. I believe in the power and responsibility of personal and communal transformation towards love. That holy ground that we see and understand every single day, and I call that power spirit. I believe that each of us, each person, is responsible for how we act and what we contribute to the world, and I call that ministry. Every single one of you in this room is a minister. Is that enough? Will it challenge me when I need to act and fear grips my feet? Will it call me to serve something larger than myself? Will those beliefs hold me when I grieve? As our lives and communities come under siege, because you can feel it, can't you? As our lives and communities come under siege, we will be living in a world, but we need not face the world in a graveyard of lovely lies. We can and must wrestle with our beliefs and values together, here in a place of liberal religion, to know how we choose to make it through. Because the central task of any liberal religious community is to offer a space to gather and wrestle, to affirm and change, to remind us of what we believe and how we are called to act in the world. Welcome, my friends. Why church? To remember that liberal religion is a place like this, a place that I hope that you support and make sure that with both safety and resources, you can be here to find a place to awaken within these walls. I hope you know why you are here and not down the street. I hope you know that it is you who ensures that these doors stay open. Yes, through your pledge, that's super important. But the doors stay open because your presence here allows others to be able to find you and join and know that here they can belong. I hope you know that in the days to come. That is what will matter. Liberal religion is needed in this time because it is a place of discourse, a place where your minds and hearts are open to find geodes. Why church? To remember. Oh, fiery Spirit,
Visit us at uusg.org.